Everybody ready? All right, well, thank you everybody for being here today. The city, the sheriff's office, the state attorney's office, we are all aligned in partnership also with the ATF in the highest priority. We all share the highest priority, and that is the safety of the people of our city. In just over 2.5 years, we've demonstrated that by investing in police officers and firefighters, in the equipment that they use, investing in 911, new updated 911 system, spot shotter, reorganizing the way we serve kids that have the most needs in our city. So the commitment in providing the resources is clear, and we're going to continue as a team to do everything that we can to make sure that everybody in every neighborhood knows that we care about and are invested in their safety. We announced, I believe in February, that we were going to pursue this technology that would basically take a bullet after a shooting and see an imprint on it, much like a fingerprint, and tie that to other uses of that firearm, which would more quickly expedite apprehending somebody and getting them off the street, solving crimes, and making our city safe. So again, the people of Jacksonville need to know that the sheriff and the state attorney and ATF and all of us are aligned on making sure that we're doing what we need to do to keep you safe. Sheriff?
Yeah, and you know, the mayor nailed it with the technology. That's exactly what this does. And so we have ShotSpotter, and we talked about that a lot, that came online in July. So this is the next phase of technology that we can marry with ShotSpotters. We wanted to bring you in today and show you what this looks like. This is where, after we collect the shell casings at the scene, we can do some examination here. Remember, we're linking shooting scenes together. We're putting guns at scenes. Great investigative leads that we're going to be able to follow up. I do want to mention the partnerships here. So we have Eric Fox here with us from ATF. ATF has been a great partner with JSO for many, many years. They're a great partner in this process, and will continue to be. Remember, we have really the final phase in terms of build out is the space in Ms. Nelson's office, where we'll have the investigators, ATF agents, State Attorney's Office investigators, JSO detectives, all sitting together, working together on these cases. That's incredible. That's the best practice from anywhere around the country, and we couldn't do it without the partnerships. And it's a great time in this city, in our community, when we have so many agencies aligned working to get things done. You know, especially in the area we talk about public safety. So, Eric, thank you. I appreciate it, and Melissa, thank you. Obviously, what we do want to do today is to take just a minute. I'm gonna let Pete introduce himself in just a minute. So, with all this technology, obviously there's a human element, and you've got to have the right person to be able to dig into this technology and use it effectively. And we've got that with Pete. And again, I'm going to let Pete introduce himself and walk you through some of what he's going to be doing today. So, Pete.
Thank you. My name is Peter Lardizabal, and I'm a retired firearms examiner. I spent 35 years, 9 months with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, working here in Jacksonville out of the Regional Operations Center. And the last 25 of those years I spent in the Firearm and Toolmark section as an examiner. So I would conduct routine examinations of fired bullets, cartridge cases, firearms themselves, and evaluate that evidence in preparation for presentation at trial. This particular program is an investigative version of the work that's done over at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and it will provide the ability to provide timely analysis of evidence that was recovered from the ShotSpotter system, and be able to push out then those leads and information out to investigators within a matter of days as opposed to months. And we'll have then our own resource to do that. The system over to my right is part of then the NIBIN system. It employs the IBIS methodology known as brass tracks to enter cartridge cases into the database, and then the match point system where we can do side-by-side comparisons of candidates that come back from the computer searches. If we have matches within those searches, then we'll push those results out to investigators, and in part housed over at the State Attorney's Office through the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, which is being developed as we speak. This instrument in the corner is the bread and butter tool of a firearms examiner. It is a comparison microscope, and it affords me the ability to view multiple cartridge cases in the same field of view and simultaneously examine them for commonality of markings. And so I can move the controls and have the image go left, right, up and down, and even zoom in, and then look for the types of markings that would give somebody who has the proper training and experience the consideration that perhaps these were fired in the same firearm, and these were. The tool gets used primarily in the instance where we have multiple cartridge cases recovered, and then we can assess how many guns potentially are involved, and then put the appropriate candidate into the system.
Good deal. So with that, we'll answer a couple questions, and then we'll have Pete maybe one-on-one explain some of the other pieces of equipment you see. So questions?
Sheriff, a couple of recent high-profile cases involving guns, or at least believed to have involved guns. Logan Mott comes to mind, the triple murder from just the other day. Will this aid in those investigations, or is it too soon? Is it already being used?
So absolutely, it'll aid in those investigations. So in any investigation involving a firearm, where there's been a gun fired at a scene. So I mean, that's the beauty of what we have here. So there's a time value on the information that you get. So in years past, we would have to reach out to FDLE, reach out to ATF, send the casing off, and we may get some of the same data back, but we're getting it back 4 or 5 months later. So it may help us in trial, but it's not helping us that particular week or that particular afternoon, that day, go out and get another bad guy off the street. We can turn that information around here now within 24 hours and be able to take that lead and again, go out and do some proactive stuff in terms of capturing, who it is that may have been involved in the shooting. So a huge force multiplier for us. It's going to be a great tool for us. And the partnerships really is what make it all work, but absolutely. And this is all really up and running today. The last piece of the puzzle for us is a mobile shooting platform, a lab, if you will, where when we recover a gun, we can test fire it and recover that shell casing and recover that projectile. We'll do some analysis on that here as well. So we can do that work today. We just have to test fire the gun at the range. And all of the investigators that we're talking about that are going to be housed in Ms. Nelson's building, they are working together today. They're just not sitting in the same office. So that, again, I feel strongly that putting people together like that really solidifies that relationship and makes it work. So those are big steps that'll be coming here in the first part of next year.
And before we had this here, our own technology, our own machine, our own folks, the sheriff was telling me that the likely only scenarios that this would be used in a shared software would be in a murder. Now, any shooting that happens in our city where they have access, this technology can be put to use for it.
That's true. And I want to take it, to put this in perspective just for a minute. I was telling the mayor earlier, this is a project that has been talked about at JSO for about 15 years. So we've had a long-standing relationship with ATF, and Eric remembers this, and the prior ASAC at ATF about having conversations of having a Jacksonville-based NIBIN machine and an area to do analysis like this. So this to have come to fruition so quickly, with just, hey, we made the pitch to the mayor, we made the request, and to be able to, again, the partnerships we have with the mayor's office and the council to put this together is a tremendous benefit for this community.
Sheriff, talk about how common or uncommon this technology is around the country to give us some perspective.
So again, lots of people use this technology around the country, but they use it the way we did. So they would have to reach out to a community that maybe had a system like this. And again, through our state, through FDLE, our state law enforcement agency, we would reach out and make that request. But we're going to be probably one of about 10 cities in the country that have this ability in our community to focus on just our community. And again, I think that is going to work wonders for us here. We were talking earlier, this is not a flip the switch kind of thing. It's up and running. We have to hit our rhythm with this, and we will pretty quickly. But it's going to be a huge benefit for us in terms of fighting crime in this community.
And then the lab that will be built out at the state attorney's office that was in the last budget, that we budgeted $1 million, as the sheriff said, the work's being done now, but now putting all those people in the same room, in the same space, is a best practice that we learned from Denver, I believe.
Correct.
So following best practices where it's working.
And I can tell you, from ATF side, seeing a national standpoint, I personally have been impressed with how quickly the city has come together and made this happen and invested in fighting violent crime. It's a revolutionary idea, so while some cities are catching on, they caught on very quickly and they've jumped into it. So they're definitely investing in fighting violent crime here.
What would be your goal what percent reduction in, I don't know, unsolved murder cases or anything like that? I mean, have you talked about that? Do you have a goal in mind? Obviously 100%, but.
Sure. So when you talk about a reduction, this is a piece of the puzzle. So you've got to factor all those things in together. We want significant reductions, and I don't know what that number would be, but we have to have things like this up and running. We've got to get officers on the street as we did in the last, approved in the last budget. So we got to get those guys through an 11-month training process and get them out on the street. And we've got to continue to do other innovative things with technology in the city. We will have conversations this year about crime cameras in certain parts of the city. We'll have conversations about license plate readers coming up this year in the city. Again, leveraging technology that will help us, again, keep our community safer.
Any other questions? Everybody all right?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Again, if you want to show anything, you guys want to see anything from Pete on your shoulders? Go ahead.
Yeah.
I looked at this, and this is why we need the experts.
Yeah, sure. Trade job spots here.
So, yeah, maybe, if he likes to do it once, we can all just kind of